Welcome to the Lore and Valor podcast. It's your host, Justin Watson, and I'm just joining you on the Sunday afternoon for a quick update. I got delayed a little bit because one of the guys I actually served with in Iraq reached out, and we had a nice long chat this afternoon. Some things are more important. So I'm an hour and 15 minutes past what I should have been. So sorry about that for anyone who actually might have been waiting. So per last Sunday, I'm just going to go through what's going on with writing, what I've been reading, and where the how the podcast slash YouTube channel is going. If we do get any comments, I'll address those as they come in. Kind of a free for all. If you want to talk about previous videos or just have any questions about books or random topics of the day, feel free to throw those in the chat on YouTube or on Facebook, where this is broadcasting right now. So on the writing front, I'm about 43,000 words into Countdown Criminal Enterprises. Last week, I finished up a big rescue sequence in Car Chase that was sometimes kind of hard to... I enjoy action sequences, both in movies and books, and I enjoy writing them, but I do feel a lot of pressure to try to be technically accurate. And it's more research than you might think, because while I have been in combat, I haven't been in high-speed pursuits or the kind of, some of the stuff you would think of from the movies. I mean, it's never like it is in the movies anyway, but like I said, I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to get things right. So even though I have experience in the field, it still requires a lot of research to make sure I get the details right and that everything blocks out properly and doesn't ring any bullshit bells with people who are in the know and who might know a lot better than I do. Some folks have a lot more combat experience than I do. So that was fun to write, but it was actually pretty time intensive, a lot of calories per word, if you want to put it that way, to get that scene right. So that was good. Got that done. Got the big, rescue, car chase, shootout sequence done. This week was more of the character building, tension building stuff, setting up conflicts to resolve later in the book. It's been good stuff, a lot of character revealing work to do. Hard work in its own way, but doesn't require as much, again, not as much technical blocking. I'm not looking up max effective range for weapon systems or what vehicles actually still have a manual transmission that you might find in a certain region of the world and things like that. So yeah, it was the words are going down a little quicker at this point. A couple other things are happening, but I can't really talk about them yet. A couple different opportunities propped up, but they're not signed, sealed, delivered yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. But I got a couple different exciting prospects in the works that I hope to be able to talk about soon, but still need some other folks to sign on for and get comfortable with. But it's all exciting stuff. My priority remains, whatever auxiliary projects I take up in my free time, getting words down for the novel is my first priority. I tried, I want to be a novelist first and foremost, so I always try to make sure I keep that first in my mind. On the writing front too, I already posted about this on Facebook, but I wanted to give a brief word about the Dragon Awards. The Dragon Awards are a set of awards for fantasy, science fiction, and other genre fiction intellectual properties in the written and visual and audio formats. And it just so happens this is the first year that I have a novel that is eligible for the Dragon Award in the alternate history category. The Romanov Rescue, which I wrote with Casey Azell and Tom Kratman, is actually now eligible for the alternate history Dragon Award. So if you would like to support my writing career in a way that costs you $0 and just a couple minutes of your time, if you were to Google the Dragon Award and register to nominate and put down some of your favorite novels and include mine and Casey and Tom's in the alternate history category, I would greatly appreciate it. Aside from that, on the writing front, I think that's about it. So I'm going to be working on Countdown Criminal Enterprise, the Mexican drug war novel and sequel to Tom Kratman's M-Day series. Is going to be a fairly long, fairly complicated book. So you're going to hear, still going on Countdown Criminal Enterprise on a lot of these updates, because it's going to take quite a bit to get that finished. It's great work, but it's painstaking and long work. As far as what I've been reading lately, I'm still going through the Final Encyclopedia by Gordon R. Dickson. It's a pretty big honking book, and it's pretty epic. I'm really enjoying it. And then I'm also still doing a lot of nonfiction on Mexico and the Mexican drug war specifically. And then beyond that, I actually forgot to mention last week, I have been going through all of the Heinlein juveniles with the kids, which has been super fun. We started out with Have Spacesuit Will Travel, which is my favorite Heinlein juvenile, unless you count Starship Troopers as a juvenile novel, which there's an argument for that. But yeah, so that's my favorite. But we just finished Citizen of the Galaxy, which was really fun because the older kids have been reading Rudyard Kipling's novel Kim in for their schooling. So it was pretty cool that like I saw the light bulbs go on. They're reading Kim in school, and then they start They start having me read Citizen of the Galaxy by Robert Heinlein to them. They start seeing the connections of how much Heinlein was inspired by Rudyard Kipling's novel Kim, which both of which are great. I tend to prefer Citizen of the Galaxy, one, because I read it first and I love Heinlein, and two, because there are spaceships. So, I have my biases. So yeah, that's been really great. I'll probably try to do some videos about the Heinlein juvenile soon. I'm going to save Starship Troopers until I'm better at this, because that's obviously a big, complicated, well, not big, it's actually rather short, controversial book with a lot of complicated themes. So I will do a video about that, but I'm going to get better at YouTubing before I attack a subject that meaty, I think. Yeah, so that's what I've been reading lately. Really enjoying the Heinlein juveniles, enjoying revisiting Gordon R. Dickson's Dorsey series with the Final Encyclopedia. And yeah, a lot of nonfiction on Mexico's history and current events. As far as the channel goes, did pretty good last week. Got 3 videos out in 1 week, which I'm really proud of. Haven't been able to maintain that kind of a tempo before, so I'm hoping to be more in that neighborhood going forward, that we'll be able to do at least 2 to 3, maybe 4 videos a week. But again, this is, a lot of the people I'm working with on the YouTube channel they also have day jobs, families, and their own creative careers as writers or filmmakers or things of that nature. So we fit this in as much as we can. We all really enjoy it. If nothing else, it's a chance to get to talk to your friends, right? And we just record it for everyone's enjoyment. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep that tempo up. We probably will have a bit of a hiatus. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you. So we are going to have a bit of a hiatus because LibertyCon is right around the corner. And my family is making a full-on road trip of it. It's going to be great. We're not this coming week, but the week after, we're all going to pack up and head through New Orleans, then up into Tennessee for the convention. And then after the convention, LibertyCon. Then after the convention, we're going to hang out with some old friends from the Army in a cabin for a couple days and get to catch up with them and their family. That's going to be amazing because we haven't seen them in a very long time, actually since before the unknown virus of unspecified origin. So really excited about LibertyCon, which plays into the next video that we already have in the can. Is Joelle Presby and I got together for my Joint Fires segment of the channel that I do with my fellow ring knockers from Annapolis and the Air Force Academy, respectively. And we've been talking about Arcane, but our third musketeer, Casey Azell, is in the middle of a move from Japan back to the States following her retirement. So Joelle and I didn't want to keep rolling with the reviews without Casey. So with LibertyCon around the corner and us both attending, we were like, hey, why don't we do a video about conventions? So Joelle and I recorded a video about not just LibertyCon, but conventions in general. She's been to a few more than I have, for sure. I've been to one Comic-Con, one purely writers conference called Superstars up in Colorado Springs, which was, if you are an aspiring writer, definitely worth it. That was a great experience. I highly recommend it. If you Google that and decide you're at a point in your career where you could use a boost to craft, you should definitely check that out. So yeah, and then obviously Liberty Con is kind of my home con, even though it's all the way up in Chattanooga. So yeah, look for that episode soon. I'm hoping to get recorded. It's not in the can yet, but Mona Lisa Foster and I have our Shadow and Bone review series going, and we need to get episode 2 recorded. Going to try to figure out how to get that done this week, but we're both busy folks, so we'll see how that happens. And then the next thing for Sam Platisky and I, Sam has been my comic book movie superhero genre go-to. But coming up, we're going to do the Obi-Wan Kenobi halftime SmackDown because it's about halfway through the show, and Sam and I do not agree on that show. So we're going to do a clinic on civil and polite disagreement on emotional matters for YouTube. So as soon as we get that recorded, I'll post the link to that, and I will post the links to the premiere link for Joel and my con video in the comments after I'm done recording. So I see John, you said, John, I love Heinlein as much as you do. I'm curious to see your commentary. I've started another round of reading all his books. So what would be cool would be to know which one you're going to talk about so I can schedule my rereading in time with your chats about the books. That's an awesome idea. I'll tell you what, John, we're starting Space Cadet now. But it will probably take us a while longer than it'll take you to finish it because I'm reading it out loud to all the kids. So right now it's Space Cadet, and I imagine it'll take us, with all the travel, although I'll probably still read it on the road to him too. With all the travel, it'll probably take us about maybe a month to finish Space Cadet in between all the other stuff we got going on in the evenings. But yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Yeah, I probably should have Spacesuit and Citizen recorded soon. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, I like Space Cadet too. Space Cadet was the third juvenile my dad read to me, I think. Because if I remember correctly, I was 8 years old the first time my dad set me down and said, son, it's time for you to learn about Robert A. Heinlein. And started reading the Heinlein juveniles to me. And the first one was Have Spacesuit Will Travel, which remains my favorite. I think it's the best written one. And then the next one was Red Planet in all its libertarian glory. And then what I find is fun is the pairing of like Red Planet, not just A Stranger in a Strange Land, obviously with the Martian stuff, but Red Planet to the Moon is a Harsh Mistress. Just seeing like Heinlein approach themes like, okay, so here's how I approach the theme of justified revolution when I'm talking to teenagers, and here's how I approach those themes when I'm talking to adults. I find that book pairing almost as interesting as Stranger and Red Planet. Maybe more so, because Stranger in a Strange Land, while it is a landmark in the field, is not my favorite Robert Heinlein novel. So John says, something I've never forgotten about Space Cadet was his sense of disconnect when he got home, and that resonates with me when I got home after basic training. Yeah, I think that's pretty universal, right? And that's something I've experienced, you've experienced, John, and James, if you're still in chat. Yeah, James Young is another graduate of Hudson High for Wayward Boys. He's another West Pointer like me who served in the Army. So the return as a different human after your military training is something... it's a theme that's never not going to resonate with some folks, right? So, and yeah, Johnny doesn't live here anymore is definitely a powerful, surprisingly powerful part of that book, and even more so given the theory, just the gravitas of Space Cadet. It's very light read. Like if you've never seen a Heinlein juvenile, for anyone watching this besides James and John, because I know you both have read Heinlein novels at length. For anyone who hasn't read a Heinlein juvenile, they're thin books, real quick reads, but they can sometimes deal with some very weighty themes. Space Cadet in particular, the whole foundation of the solar patrol that the main character and his friends are going to the academy to become officers in, is that they control the nuclear arsenal that circles the Earth and ensures that there is never a major war between two industrial powers again. So, on one hand, it's this light space adventure book. On the other hand, it very much deals with the fact that the main character is training to be the person who nukes a city if it becomes necessary. And he takes that theme seriously. It's not cartoonish, not cartoonishly handled in the book. So yeah, very good book. I enjoy Space Cadet quite a bit too. And I'm looking forward to see how the kids react to it as well. is a very long-winded way of saying that. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. LibertyCon around the corner. I switched day jobs recently. I don't talk too much about it, not because yeah, no, James, it had been a while since I'd read them too. It's one of the reasons I revisited them. So far I'd say they hold up. The Heinlein Juveniles still hold up pretty well. Obviously, they're a little old-fashioned. They're written in the 50s, but I've enjoyed them just as much now as I did when I was reading them as a kid. So I'd say when you, in your copious spare time, if you want to pick up a Heinlein Juvenile, I think it'd be worth it. Oh yeah, no, that's I haven't gotten to that line yet, John, but I remember it. So John says, curious what you think about the speech he got about the required IQ difference between officers and NCOs. I don't know if it's for another chat. We've got time now. That was, I remember that speech. And actually, if you remember the specifics of the speech, it's in a chapter where the main character is tired of all the STEM and the math and the science, all the calculus he has to do as a space naval officer, so to speak, and therefore asks for a transfer to the Space Patrol Marine Corps to be a platoon leader of Space Marines instead of a Space Patrol officer. And Heinlein, having been a Navy man, puts in a very subtle, not dig at the Marine Corps, but it's a very it's a little classist. It's like, oh yeah, no, the Marines are amazing, but to be a good Marine, you need to be motivated by the glory of your unit and your camaraderie with your fellow man. And it's like, yeah, to an extent, that's true. But then he contrasts it with, whereas the Space Patrol, the officers are purely professionals. They do everything they do out of a desire to do the right thing for professional satisfaction with no regard for personal glory. And it's like, there's certainly an element of truth in that. Like, I was in the Army for 10 years and I was neither a Marine nor a sailor, but the pride of the unit and the camaraderie you have with your troops is definitely incredibly important. And units that don't have it are terrible places to be. And units that do have it are straight up magical places to be. So I'm not saying that Heinlein was wrong, but it did seem a little ham-fisted to imply that Marine Corps officers in the future are, it's okay if they're dumber than patrol officers. Like and even as I say that, it's like, obviously I didn't have to struggle with nuclear engineering as an artillery officer. So sure, maybe there's an argument that he's correct. But yeah, I always find that, I find Heinlein's speech about that a little suspect. And also the fact that even looking at the difference between the IQ difference between officers and NCOs, in my experience in the American Army, like, it's a completely case by case thing. There are a lot of stupid officers. There are a lot of brilliant NCOs. There are a lot of stupid NCOs, and there's some brilliant officers. So I don't know that the fact that we require a college degree for one and don't for the other has actually created the intelligence quotient divide you might expect. To some extent, I'm sure, but it's not. I learned early on not to underestimate my troops and assume that I was the smartest person in my platoon or company or battery because I happened to be the one with lieutenant's bars or captain's bars. So yeah, no, I found Heinlein's speech interesting, but I do think it's one of those things that in a Heinlein juvenile was maybe a kernel of truth oversimplified into a speech. The exact opposite of what I would do. The issue of Mustangs would support what I'm saying. Yeah, Mustang officers are an interesting phenomenon. So for those who, again, for anyone who may not know what a Mustang officer is a officer with prior enlisted service. My anecdotal experience with Mustang officers in the Army was they tended to weigh very heavily towards either end of the spectrum of ability and character, with very few people falling in the middle. The Mustang officers I knew were either the best leaders I had. One of my battery commanders, actually maybe two of my battery commanders were Mustangs. A good battalion commander I had was Mustang. It was a Mustang. A lot of my friends were prior enlisted. Some were not, but like, you would get either a guy who commissioned for the right reasons, adapted to his new role as an officer, and his experience as an enlisted man enriched his abilities as an officer so much that, man, one of the best, absolutely. But then you also had Mustangs. In my experience, I knew some Mustangs who commissioned for the wrong reasons. They commissioned because it was more money. Yep, exactly. They commissioned because it was more money, which I get. Like, I'm not allergic to money. I'm in business now. I have a 9-to-5 job, and I get paid pretty well, and I work for a good company, and that's all fine and well. But that's not why I didn't choose to be an officer, because they got paid more than NCOs. So I saw that dichotomy. You had NCOs who would get commissioned, and they just, they're like, oh yeah, no, officers don't have to work that hard. And it's like, officers have to do different shit. And frankly, a lot of it's just not as fun, is what we have to do. We have to be a shield for bureaucratic bullshit, is a lot of what officers do, is trying to shield their units so their units can accomplish their missions, rather than be inundated with all the bullshit that hire comes up with. That is a large chunk of what I do. What I did in the Army was trying to allow my NCOs, and when I was a battery commander, my junior officers, to do their job without being hamstrung by every good idea fairy that outranked me. But yeah, so and then, like I said, like the other issue, aside from Mustang officers who commissioned solely for the increase in status or money or pay, was that there were some, and John, I think this is what you're getting at with you when you say the worst is a commissioned NCO. Is there are others who just could not let their NCOs be NCOs. They weren't focused on the stuff the lieutenant or the captain is supposed to do. They were focused on the stuff the sergeant or the staff sergeant should be doing, which, again, like, it's very helpful to know what your sergeants and staff sergeants are supposed to be doing, but you need to let them do it. You need to give your people enough room. Frankly, you need to give your people even enough room to fuck up. You need to give your people enough room to make mistakes. Especially in training, where hopefully no one gets killed from it. Because if they don't screw up and learn on their own in training, that you kind of have to know what wrong looks like to know what right looks like. So I assiduously avoided a zero defect mentality. My attitude was, if we have zero defect, we're probably not training hard enough. Was my attitude. Yeah, exactly. I have a phrase I use so much that my wife has started using it in common, and my kids will sometimes use it in conversation, which is left, right, in state. Give me my left limit, my right limit, and you're in state, and I will figure it out from there. If I need anything else, I'll ask you. But yeah, so funny how everything devolves into a conversation about the Army. Hi, I'm Justin Watson. Did I mention that I was in the Army? No, not that I mind. Thank you, John, for the conversation. I mean, I talk about military sci-fi all the time. It's a natural digression. So yeah, I actually, yeah. So I just froze on camera. So yeah, that was, we were on Space Cadet, right? Thanks for bearing with me through the brain fart. So Space Cadet is what we're reading now. I think next will be Red Planet, because I have a lot of affection for that one. And then actually, I think after Red Planet, we may do the only Heinlein novel I've never read, which is, funnily enough, The Rolling Stones. I never read The Rolling Stones. I know it has so much, there are so many concepts in common with The Trouble with Tribbles, that David Gerald had to, like, that there was some question about maybe plagiarism, but that it turned out it was all good. And David Gerald just thanked Heinlein for the inspiration, and there was never any legal action. But yeah, I'll be interested to read that one, because I never have. And beyond that, if there are no other questions, John, again, thank you for the chat. James, thanks for showing up in chat. If there are no other questions, I'm pretty much all I've got to report for today. Look for that convention video coming up. And then, like I said, once I've got them recorded, I hope to have the Shadow and Bone and the Obi-Wan Kenobi Ultra Civil Smackdown with Sam Platisky recorded and out this week, but I can't swear to it. Again, for those of you who are cottoning on and supporting the channel, I apologize that there's a little bit of stutter step here and there. Have you ever looked on the joint service between Heinlein, Asimov, and Doc? Joint service between Heinlein, Asimov, and Doc? Doc E. Smith? No, John, I'm not sure that I have. Are you talking about during World War II when they were all in like the think tank together? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, yeah. I have many, many moons ago, I had read about, many, many moons ago, I had read that Heinlein was kind of one of the ramrods of the science fiction think tank, not the Manhattan Project or anything like that, but that he had got a bunch of engineers and science fiction authors and folks together to work for the United States government, creating, amongst other things, if I remember correctly, better windshield wipers for aircraft. If I remember correctly. I do remember Asimov and Doc E. Smith were amongst them. I don't think Bradbury was, because he was too young and not a very technical guy, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong about that. But yeah, no, that is. I do remember reading something about that, but I don't remember all the details. I think it was in Grumbles from the Grave or Requiem or both, maybe, because it's been a long time since I read those. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll have to look into that, John. That's a good suggestion. Yeah. So yeah, okay, guys. I think that's probably about it for now. We're just under a half hour. Again, appreciate the comments. Stay on the lookout for those videos, and I will keep you posted. And again, if you would be so kind, thanks for the channel. Thank you, John. I appreciate every single like, every single comment in chat. I appreciate it because I'm very new at all this, and we're trying to make it go, trying to get off the ground. So everyone who shows an ounce of support, believe me, I feel it right here. It warms the cockles of my heart, maybe even the subcockles, maybe even in the kidneys. We just don't know. So yeah, if you would be so kind and you have the inclination to help a brother out, please consider nominating the Romanov Rescue for the Dragon Award. If you look on my Facebook profile, you can find a bunch of other great Baen science fiction, fantasy, and alternate history works that are eligible. And then, yeah, thanks, James. I thought you might appreciate that one. And then also, I want to specifically shout out Mona Lisa Foster. The science fiction category, because that is a fantastic book. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. And then, yeah, keep your eyes peeled for more videos. Please leave a comment if you're coming late, either on Facebook or on YouTube. That's all there is for Lore and Valor today. Thank you so much for your participation. I'll see you next time. And until then, let me get my mouse over the button this time. Until then, keep up the fire.